Welcome to another episode of Bunker
Brothers.
I'm Daniel Audette, and this is
Andrew Graham.
And we are back again. This time we are going to go head to head doing our introduction of our players from the Bible. And Andrew Graham has compiled a list, 15 from the Old Testament and 15 from the New Testament of the top players in the Bible. Plus, we have 2 wild cards chosen each that could change the way everything goes. So, let's introduce our players.
Well, let's begin with the dramatic theme music. Da, 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 da. Number one from the Old Testament is Father Abraham.
Father Abraham, gotcha. Number 1 from the New Testament, James, the son of Zebedee.
One of the Sons of Thunder.
Sons of Thunder. Gotcha.
Number 2 from the Old Testament is Boaz, the future or past husband of Ruth.
Gotcha. Number 2 from New Testament, John the Baptizer. I like how you put baptizer. John the Baptist.
I don't want to give the Baptist too much credit.
Gotcha.
Number 3 is Caleb.
Caleb, the give me my mountain Caleb.
The give me my mountain.
The old, long in the tooth player who, after 40 years of wandering, says, give me my mountain.
Or the young guy that went into the land of Canaan and saw the giants and said, my God is bigger than those giants.
And true.
I love Caleb, by the way.
That's exactly one of the only 2 survivors of that generation, to be honest.
Yep.
Joshua was the other one, right?
So number 3 from the New Testament.
Number 3 from New Testament, John, the son of Zebedee.
The other son of Thunder.
The other son, you put both sons of Thunder in here?
I put both of them on here.
Can't allow them to be on your team.
I just want to have a little fun with it. Come on.
Number 4, Old Testament, we have
Daniel, your namesake.
Thank you.
I'd like to point out I didn't put Andrew on here.
That's a great guy.
I probably should have, though. Then we could have had Daniel versus Andrew. It would have been a lot of fun. Where are we at? Number 4 from the New Testament.
Joseph, the father
of Jesus.
So,
or at least the father of Jesus' brother.
Yeah, well,
how about that?
It was a legal matter, and so legally he's the father of Jesus. And although Mary also had blood from the Davidic line, so it was covered either way.
All right, number 5 from the Old Testament.
David,
the king.
Man, you went really, and you picked an obvious one.
I did, but how could you not?
I can't eliminate that because he'd be one of those most valued players. He
is a first ballot Hall of Famer.
Absolutely, I think so.
He and Abraham.
Yeah. He and Abraham.
Let's see, number 5 from the New Testament.
Lazarus, or as I call him, the comeback kid.
Good name. I like that.
Yeah, I love it.
All right, number 6 from the Old Testament is Elijah.
I noticed you picked Elijah and not Elisha.
I fought over that. I did not want to pick both of them, and
so Elijah's the guy with the chariot, the guy who calls down fire.
Yeah, okay. and the whole God really taking him to heaven in a chariot of fire was kind of my deciding factor there.
After all, you have chariots of fire. Ba-bum, bum, ba-bum, bum.
Number 6 from the New Testament.
Number 6, you've got Luke. Now, here you go. You picked Luke. Okay, you've got some New Testament characters there. I like Luke, but Luke's a very specific person.
He is.
And he's different than the other disciples because he's not congruent with them. He was there with them, but Luke's special.
Well, he wasn't on the list of the 12.
No, he wasn't.
But he was there.
And he's a biblical author of at least a couple books, right? So here's the thing. It's an amazing thing. It goes to show you that God really didn't exclude people from the experience of Christ, did he?
No.
Yes, he picked his 12. Yes, he had 12 apostles. Yes, they're special. But guess what? There's room. There's room for a lot of players.
Well, but
especially on my team.
Only 2 of the Gospels came out of
especially on my team.
Oh, wait a minute now. You can't have all the good ones. Let's see. Number 7 on the Old Testament list is Gideon.
Giddy up, Gideon. That's all I call him.
Well,
Giddy up, Gideon.
He started out well and it finished badly.
Gideon, you gonna go do it? Yeah, well, giddy up, boy.
Number 7 New Testament.
Number 7 New Testament. Mark.
It's Mark. Okay, I'll be honest with you. Here's my thing about Mark. I've always said that Mark is the least appreciated of the Gospels.
It can be, yeah.
You know, if we had to rank them, I'd put John number 1, and I'd probably put Mark at the end. And I feel kind of bad for Mark, so I had to include him on this list.
Well, you know what? When Mark got involved in that, his gospel was, I described the quick, like, and in a hurry gospel.
Yeah,
because
that's a good
his
description.
Gentile audience that he was going for had no reference to Jewish ideas, laws, religions, concepts, cultures.
Right.
And so he wrote his gospel, and scholars believe it's primarily based off of the experiences of Peter giving him description. Mark felt the specific need of an individual group, and he met their need for a gospel. Mark,
all right,
awesome.
Let's continue on. Sorry, we get sidetracked.
Good one.
Number 8 from the Old Testament is Isaiah.
Isaiah, the famous messianic prophet.
That's why he's on here.
He's a man who
He
told
did
so
a lot.
much.
Don't get me wrong.
So much
that's
about
not all
Jesus
there
Christ.
is, but that is the reason he is on this list.
Number 8, New Testament, Matthew.
Levi, the tax collector.
The tax collector. You know what? I think I like him, but I think that he's going to be interesting juxtaposed one of the other fellows you have on this list.
Yeah, we'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Matthew is that, Jesus can save anybody guy.
This is true.
And not only save him, but turn him into an apostle and then into a gospel writer. And
totally get it.
I mean, he turned him all the way around. And a guy like me needs somebody like that in their life.
Number 9, Old Testament, Joseph, son of Jacob. Joseph, the ultimate betrayal story, the ultimate.
Oh. Well, and when I talk about Boaz, I love his family connections, and then Joseph is the exact opposite. His family turned on him, but he never turned on them.
Number 9, I see a really unusual one here. It's
and
Mattathias.
I want to see what you would do with it. That was...
No one ever puts Mattathias in the game. I mean, on the list.
Well, he's the third string quarterback.
He really is.
He's the guy that he's Mr. Irrelevant, as they say in the NFL about the last draft pick.
Oh, there are theologians that honestly don't even like the idea of him. Or the way they express it is that really Paul fills this role.
And that may be true.
But that's not what happened in the Word of God, right? We know what happened.
That's not the story.
He was chosen because he was a witness. Jesus, his spirit was leading his people, and he was chosen because...
So, for somebody that never gets included, we're having a lot to say about him. Number 10. I forgot I put him on the list. I thought I put Caleb there. But apparently I put Joshua on the list too.
You put Joshua.
The other spy.
The other spy. The other guy, the only other one to live.
I'm not surprised I put Joshua on the list. He's one of my all-time favorite Bible characters.
He is.
Because that is a man's man from the get-go.
Man's man. Certainly a type of Christ. Because, Joshua's name, his name is
Yeshua.
The same name as Jesus.
Yeah.
Same name, Yeshua. Pretty cool. All right, so moving on, we got number 10 from the New Testament, Nicodemus. Nicodemus.
What do you make of it?
So, he's a guy who comes in and he doesn't know what's going on. He knows a lot. He goes and asks Jesus about it, and Jesus tells him like it is. But Nicodemus, he shows his dedication to Christ, not so much in the life of Jesus Christ, but at the death of Jesus Christ.
Oh, you just wait. It's going to get better.
What are you telling me?
Hold on.
Okay,
number 11, Old Testament, is King Josiah.
Josiah, the young king Josiah, right? The reformer of Israel.
Yes.
The one who said, we need to read our Bible.
Well, it leads you to believe they didn't have it. It was lost under some junk in the temple. They had lost it.
Yeah. They had lost it, yeah.
And so he made them read it again, and when he did, he was very, very upset about it.
We like Josiah.
Let's see.
Number 11, New Testament, Paul.
So we went from Matthias to Paul. We've got the third string quarterback to Tom Brady.
Which is really weird because Paul would say he was a third string guy.
He would.
He wasn't, but he's a guy who said, I'm the one that was born out of season.
As little as I like Tom Brady, he is a great comparison.
Right.
Because Tom Brady was picked in the 6th round of the draft and has turned out to be one of the best quarterbacks in history.
Good example.
Paul is exactly the same thing.
He is.
Okay, number 12, Old Testament is Moses.
The Mamma Jamma himself, the tablet man, the veiled...
The first man to download from a cloud onto a tablet.
Wow, that's just so true. First person to drop his tablet and break it, too.
Yeah. He didn't drop it, he threw it down.
Threw it down. He was pretty mad that day.
And my wife gets mad at me when I lose my temper. I don't have anything written by the hand of God to break.
Number 12, New Testament.
Sorry.
Simon, Peter.
The rock.
The pebble.
The pebble.
The little rock. But you know, I've often joked and said, seriously, that if we were to take his name and colloquialize it to today, we would have called him Rocky.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, if at least I would probably.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Let's see. Number 13, Old Testament is Noah.
Noah, the float your boat kind of guy. So, Noah, and I get it. You know, people, sometimes they miss the full story of Noah. Because the Word of God contains the Old Testament, a very specific narrative about him.
Yes.
But the Jewish tradition and history tells more about him. That's revealed later as we read it in the Word of God, that he actually ministered and preached in his day and age. He preached to the people around him. Look, God's going to judge. He's going to do it this way. We need to change our ways. And so Noah was an evangelist early. One of the earliest evangelists, I think, that ever go on record of trying to get people to change their way.
And I'm not sure you can say he ended badly, but he had some rough patches after the flood.
Yeah, well, yeah. Oh, boy. But Noah was a good guy. I love him.
Okay. Where are we at? Number 13, New Testament. My favorite apostle.
Simon the Zealot.
Or the Canaanite, depending on which book you're reading out of.
So Simon the Zealot is one of my favorites. But it's because of him being put beside of Matthew, the tax collector.
You could not find two more opposite guys. Now,
Simon the Zealot was...
Let me set this up a little bit. Hold on. Simon the Zealot, my church does a living Last Supper.
Because a dead Last Supper would really be boring.
It would be. But we get imposed like the painting from Da Vinci, and the spotlight hits one of us at a time. My character is Simon the Zealot. I had to put Simon the Zealot on the list. That is my boy. But yes, juxtaposed against Matthew, it is very interesting because you've got someone who is willing to fight and die and everything else for Israel, and then you've got somebody who has betrayed Israel by working for the Romans. And I love it. I love it.
The two men in the same room, it's a miracle. It's a miracle. It is
an absolute miracle.
Matthew's
it is an overlooked miracle.
Absolutely. Simon the Zealot would never normally get along with this guy.
No, he would have killed him.
Because he represented what Simon hated about, about the Roman government, about his people subjugated by them. Oh, man. Love it.
So if I put Matthew on there, I had to put Simon the Zealot on there.
That's true. 14 for Old Testament.
Samuel.
The Kingmaker. Samuel himself, the Kingmaker.
Really? I mean...
He did so much. He dealt with a lot. He felt
betrayed. So much in such a rough, evil time.
Right.
There was not a whole lot of good going on in that time period.
That's true. And he was one of the
few. Because we've just gotten past the Judges.
Right.
And we know how Judges ends.
Terrible.
Well, I mean, you start Judges and you go, well, this is bad. I hope it doesn't get worse. And by the end of it, you're ready to just give it all up. Okay. Where are we at? 14 New Testament. I got Stephen.
Stephen as being the first martyr of what we consider the New Testament.
Of the church.
It's pretty good. It's a great pick.
I saw him as kind of one of those overlooked characters, too. Not so much as Simon Z or the next one we're going to talk about.
But Stephen and Paul are important. You would not have Paul had it not been for Stephen. And I say that because Paul is there when Stephen is stoned. And I like to believe that this is where the issue where Paul would ultimately have to decide which side he's really going to go with, whether he's going to understand or serve Christ or not. I think this is where it started hitting him. And I'm not saying he did well, because obviously became a horrible person for a while. I mean, he was a tyrant toward the church, imprisoning people regularly. But Paul would not have happened if he had not seen Stephen stand up and believe. And Stephen saw Christ standing, waiting for him, right? Paul was there and held the coats of the people who stoned Stephen.
Yeah.
But you don't have a Paul rise without the sacrifice of Stephen. So there you go.
All right, we're going to put some time in on the next one. Number 15 from the Old Testament.
Ehud.
Your last choice.
Ehud.
I love this story. Ehud. The warrior aspect coming out in me. But
this is one of the guys that I kind of forgot you had on the list, and technically I kind of wanted to make him one of my wild cards.
Too bad.
Right, but you put him on the list. This is the guy who, get this right, this is the guy who killed a king on his toilet.
Yes.
Am I correct?
Yes. He's one of the judges.
He's one of the judges.
He killed the king while the king was relieving himself.
Yeah.
Which gave him time to escape, which is ultimately an awesome part of the story. But it's also, they said the king was so fat that when he drove his sword into the man's belly, his hand was encased in a layer of fat.
And of course, we know it says it, and his sand came out. Sand? You!
All right, and number 15 from the New Testament.
All right, so we have number 15. We have the prodigy of Paul, and it is Timothy. Timothy is an interesting character because
I like him because he's young.
He's
idealistic.
Yeah.
And even though he's idealistic, Paul has to keep reminding him not to give up.
And
Don't let those old guys get you down.
One of the difficulties that a guy like Timothy now gets is now there's a legacy. And so he's an example.
Yeah.
You know, you've got players who have been playing already on the field, and they are the first. He is not the first.
No.
He's not one of the firsts. He is the one that now picks up the legacy of players that have gone before him. Now, he's going to be the A-team because, look, the A-team guys are going to die.
Or he's the JV quarterback.
Yeah, I think that's a better example.
He is
the junior varsity guy.
He is the JV guy that's waiting to come up to varsity.
Yeah.
And he's being mentored by the varsity quarterback.
Right. So much of what Paul had to say to him in the letters were how to manage what was now established. Paul didn't have those letters.
Even though it's set
Paul didn't have that kind of advice. No. He went in and had to just elbow grease his way through stuff.
Even though the letters to Timothy are generally considered, for instructions for the leadership of the church, I think they're good instructions for anybody.
Well,
let's face it. I mean, that's good instruction for anybody. Okay, this is the part I'm most excited about. Drum roll, please.
So
now we get to the wild cards. I got to ask you.
Okay, I know mine.
Okay, I know mine too. I've had mine since we talked about this the first time. Did you do one Old Testament, one New Testament?
I did both mine from the Old, but I did both of mine from the Old Testament.
You got two Old Testament.
But I have a New Testament guy that I can't give up, but I'll tell you about that later. But I two for Old Testament.
So I've got an Old Testament and a New Testament, and I think you're going to love my New Testament.
I want to hear your one of them, and then I'll go, and then you go, and then go.
Okay, from the Old Testament. And this one I fought over because I really wanted it, and I didn't know if you'd let me go with it, but I think you will.
Okay.
So I picked another one of the judges.
So which one you got?
I got Deborah. I like Deborah.
So one of the things about Deborah is men, and sorry guys, sorry men.
And this is why I know this is a men's group, and but I like Deborah a lot.
A man that can follow the leadership of God, if that leadership that God brings is in the form of a woman, to follow God must then follow what that woman is dispensing. In other words, I had a man one time, and I was in a church service, no joke, and there was a female minister, and she was speaking, and I'm telling you, a man in front of me started to heckle her. We were in church. He was a Christian. I know him.
And you didn't do that to Deborah because she'd stab you.
He started just kind of do that, blowing out wind and hissing a little bit. And I leaned forward and I said, "Listen," I told him, I said, if God has something to say to you today, and she's the speaker, it's going to come through her. You shouldn't show disrespect to God. Just because. Listen, I told him, I said, if God has something to say to you today, and she's the speaker, it's going to come through her. You shouldn't show disrespect to God just because you're having difficulty with her being a woman.
I agree with that.
And but my mother was a pastor, or a minister. Now, she always worked with my father and considered herself to be underneath him as a minister. And they worked really good together as a team. Deborah was the real deal. There are people who try to say that she wasn't an actual judge, that it was a co-judgeship between Deborah and Barak. But my friends and ladies and gentlemen, no. That is not what the Word of God says.
When the man goes to her and says, "I will go, but you got to hold my hand and go with me."
Listen, God chooses whom He wants. That's what He does.
I cannot give Barak or Barak or however you want to say it.
Yeah.
The title of judge over Deborah. I cannot do it.
Of course not. And of course, here's the thing. If God moves through a person, if they're anointed and they're called, then you need to follow what God is doing. That's a man's thing.
That's a great place to lead into one of your Old Testament picks.
Well, my Old Testament pick is Elisha.
Oh, you went there.
Because let me tell you why. Okay? Your Elijah.
I know why I would have picked.
No, your Elijah is really good. Yeah? Okay? But my man is the double. He does twice.
I'll give you that.
He does twice the miracles.
And I'll give you.
I get it.
If God has so anointed you that a dead body touching your dead body brings them back to life, that's pretty awesome.
In the biblical story, he does twice as many miracles.
And I argued with myself whether I wanted Elijah or Elisha on the list, and I could not. And it was the chariot of fire that made me go with Elijah.
Wow.
And so I don't blame you for taking Elisha.
Elisha's got the floating axe. Elisha's got the poison soup. Elisha's got Elisha's awesome.
I agree.
But you can't have Elisha without Elijah.
No.
So,
all right. My second pick is from the New Testament. This is one I think you're going to find really interesting.
Wild card.
It is definitely a wild card.
Okay.
I got Joseph of Arimathea.
Joseph of Arimathea? Whoa, okay. Joseph of Arimathea. Okay. All right. Okay, but why would you pick him?
He's always fascinated me.
Huh.
Because who takes the body of a criminal?
I think that's, again, one of the guys that you brought in here, and it was Nicodemus. It's Nicodemus as well with him. And that's what intrigues me about Nicodemus.
I like
Nicodemus and him are involved in receiving that body of
and donates his tomb.
Yeah.
His own property. It's never been used. It's brand new. It's his. And he had to be wealthy to have it in advance like that.
And those men that did this, by the way, that were involved in taking down and handling the body of Jesus, according to the law, these men became ceremonially unclean.
Yes.
They became unclean.
Yeah.
They were willing to become unclean for Jesus Christ. And
I thought you'd like this.
That just,
I think it caught you off guard. I think I really threw you for that one.
All right, so this about wraps our second episode right here. Just getting through the list of the guys that we have.
Yeah, that took us a little longer than we thought it would.
So in the next episode, we're going to come back. We're actually going to make our picks.
So we're going to have a part 2 to this, guys.
Yeah, a part 2 to our part 2.
A part 2 to our part 2.
That's right.
Would that be 2 squared?
Listen, thanks for joining us with this episode of Bunker Brothers. And we just ask that God would bless all of those that are putting their trust in Jesus Christ. And we just ask that you would continue to pray for all the other brothers in Bunker Brothers at Faith Bunker. God bless you, and we'll see you again another time.
Goodbye.
According to the law, became ceremonial.
Ceremonially.
According to the law, became ceremonially. According to the law, these men became ceremonially unclean.